Welcome back, everybody. A viewer asked me about how to create a wet plate effect. They were also nice enough to explain to me what that term meant. It's basically that old-timey photo look from the days when it took more than one person to take a picture. This is what I came up with. Let's show you how I did it in Affinity Photo 2. I started with this image of a beautiful girl with flowers in her hair that I found on pixabay.com. I decided to crop it a bit, so I went to my crop tool in the left-hand toolbar and set up a custom ratio in the shape of a square. Then I clicked Apply to crop the photo. Next, with the layer selected, I clicked Command or Control-J to duplicate it. Then, with the top layer selected, I went to Filters in the menu, then Sharpen, then High Pass. I'll use the slider to set that to around 10 pixels. Now, I'll go to my blend modes at the top of the layers pane and scroll down to Overlay. If I turn the layer on and off by clicking on the dot to the right of the layer, you can see the effect. Alright, now I'm going to right-click on the top layer and scroll down to Merge Visible. This will combine both images into a single new pixel layer while preserving the originals. Next, I'll add a couple kinds of blur. First, I'll go to my Live Filters button at the bottom of the Layers panel. I'll select Lens Blur and set that to about 10 or 11 pixels. Okay, next, I'll go back to the Live Filters button and select Motion Blur. I set that to about the same 10 or 11 pixels as well. Alright, I'll drop that motion blur layer onto the top layer to clean things up. Then, I'll go down and click the Mask Layer button at the bottom of the Layers panel. This will add a mask to the layer that's selected. Next, I'll make sure my color is set to black, then I'll select my paintbrush tool. You can use a basic soft, round brush head here. I'll lower the opacity down to about 75% and make sure the hardness is set to 0. I'll now paint over the eyes, nose and lips a bit to reveal the sharper layer below. These old photos had a very shallow depth of field. They would focus on the faces, but the rest of the image was somewhat blurry. That's the look we're going for here. I'll lower the opacity down to about 50% and go over the rest. Okay, now I'll select the top layer and go down to the Adjustments button at the bottom of the Layers panel. There, I'll select Channel Mixer. I'll change the output channel to grey and raise up the intensity to around 130 or 140-ish. Then, I'll lower the alpha slider down by maybe 5 to 10%. I get this nice black and white effect with a pretty good contrast between the darker and lighter areas. Okay, next I'm going to add an image of an old film plate that I downloaded from Google earlier. I'll go to File in the menu, select the file, and then drag it onto my canvas and move it to where I want it. Then, with that new image layer selected, I'll go to the Blend Modes drop-down and select Overlay to blend it in. Then, I'll select the old film layer and move it around with my Move tool until it looks best to me. That looks pretty nice, but the whole image got a bit darker. So, I'll select the layer with the girl on it, go to my Adjustment button at the bottom of the Layers panel and select Levels. I'll play around with these sliders a bit until it looks good to me. Alright, that's better. But I think I want it to look a little more scratched up. I happen to have an image of scratched metal that I got from unsplash.com. So I'll go File in the menu, select the image file I need, and drag it onto the canvas just like I did with the old plate. And I'll blend it in by going to the Blend Modes drop-down and selecting Overlay. Okay, it's getting there. But that may be a bit too scratchy. Easy enough. I'll just go to the opacity slider at the top of the Layers panel and move that down about halfway, so the scratches aren't so prominent. Last thing here and then, I'll let you go. I'm going to make one more adjustment to the lighting. With the girl layer selected, I'll go to Brightness and Contrast. I'll bring the brightness up a bit, and I think I'll lower the contrast down some. There, that looks pretty good to me. Alright, that's about it for today. If you learned something and want to see more of this kind of content, please click those like and subscribe buttons. And if you're feeling generous, this channel runs on caffeine. There's a link to buy me a cup of coffee in the descriptions. Not necessary, but certainly appreciated. Have a great day, everyone.